I firmly believe that writers who engage in shadow work are way more likely to dish out some seriously unique and captivating characters and stories. Now, if you're sitting there like, what on the earth is shadow work? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Picture shadow work as a deep dive into your own psyche. It's this introspective journey that our buddy Carl Jung came up with. The goal? To acknowledge and understand the shadow inside us. And by shadow, I'm talking about the stuff we often keep buried deep down. The unconscious bits we deny or suppress because they're uncomfortable and don't jive with our conscious identity. Your shadow could be filled with fears, biases, and other negative emotions. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Your shadow can also hold positive qualities that you might have overlooked or ignored. The magic of shadow work is about bringing these hidden traits to light, staring them down, and integrating them into our conscious selves. It's intense, but believe me, this can help us become completer and more fulfilled as people, and most definitely, as creators. After much thought on this subject, I have 4 reasons why I think shadow work is a game changer for writers. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts, so if you could please stick with me and drop a comment after hearing me out, I'd appreciate it. I want to stir up some discussion with this one. Now, having said all that, let's jump in. Reason number 1. It can equip you with self-understanding that can help you with character depth. Writers who dare to venture into their own subconscious just get humans better. They understand our motivations, desires, fears, and all that complicated stuff that makes us, well, us. This deep self-reflection can up your game when it comes to crafting characters that resonate with readers. Your characters become like this fascinating blend of all the highs and lows of human experience. And you know what? That makes them believable, complex, and utterly compelling to readers. On the flip side, writers who steer clear of their subconscious, their characters can end up feeling kind of flat. They're missing the intricate layers of personality, resulting in predictable and superficial characters that are less likely to click with readers. Let's flesh this out with an example. Ever heard of Yangchen from the Avatar series? If you just scratch the surface, she's this beloved air nomad, hailed as the ultimate Earth avatar across the 4 nations. Without digging deep, you might peg this wise, zen-like stereotype. But my friend, a writer who embraces shadow work won't stop there. They dive into Yangchen's shadow, which is surprisingly murky. She's burdened by the thoughts of giving up on the world and humanity. She sports a hefty dose of arrogance, especially in the Avatar state where she's basically flexing her godlike power. Plus, she's incredibly conscious about her legacy, constantly trying to step out of her predecessor's shadow and yearning to be acknowledged as a successful avatar. Oh, and the part I adore the most, she's a cunning spy master and politician, always scheming and planning, even though it rubs against her air nomad principles. She hates herself for these practices, often feeling like she fares as an air nomad, but she also thinks it's necessary, having seen how the straight path can sometimes lead nowhere. Don't get it twisted though. Yangchen is a hero through and through. Despite her internal turmoil, she's all about averting chaos and helping people. Sure, she grapples with her principles and the necessity of her actions, but she can't just shake off her deep-seated desire to be hands-on in aiding people. You get the surface still. You get the archetypes, the tropes, the persona, whatever you want to call it. You get that first layer of character, but you don't stop there. You then dig to understand who and what exists beneath the surface to shape someone into this persona, even if it's stuff that some might be uncomfortable with or frown upon. Reason 2. It can help you be more original and offer fresh perspectives. You ever read or watch something and feel like you're stuck in a Groundhog Day type scenario? Like the creator is just recycling the same old ideas or hopping onto whatever trend's hot at the moment. This is what I find often happens with writers who don't delve into their shadows. Their stuff can feel a bit been there, done that, you know? They're playing it safe, sticking to the tried and true, and not really leaving a lasting impression. It's like they're just another drop in the ocean, creating stuff that conforms to the world's expectations. Let's flip the script to a writer who gets down and dirty with their shadow. That is where I believe the magic happens. Hidden in the shadows are all the offbeat, unconventional aspects of our psyche. A writer who's cool with exploring this territory isn't going to shy away from writing scenes that might offer things that cause others to squirm. And that's a recipe for unique storytelling. Need an example? Let's look at Tales of Crestoria, a narrative that's steeped in shadow work. Early on, we've got Micella, one of the protagonists, who's wrecking herself with guilt over an accidental murder. Then there's Vicious, who loses his patience with her self-loathing and rips into her for being afraid of happiness. He outright tells her she's pathetic. But don't worry, it's not a one-way bashing fest. Micella fights back, admitting that a part of her does feel better and that she wants to enjoy things, which is what taps into her true fear, becoming happy despite the fact she's killed someone. When she first brought this up, I was surprised and intrigued as I can relate. I mean, not with killing anyone or anything, but I have made some mistakes with people that I chastise myself about all the time. Anyway, Vicious hits her with a reality check that's like nothing I've seen before in a story. He basically tells her to accept she's trash, pulls apart her self-torture, and confronts her with the harsh reality that she's not truly living. He urges her to embrace life, warts and all, and smile even if she's trash. In other words, he's saying, go find your happiness, mistakes and all. It totally fits the story's tagline, live, even if it's a sin. This scene isn't something you would expect from conventional storytelling. It's a positive message delivered in a brutally unforgettable way. And I'm willing to bet that someone who plays it safe would never even dream of making this scene, let alone have the guts to commit to it. Reason number 3, it can lead to greater empathy and the ability to portray a greater variety of outlooks and experiences. A writer who dodges their shadows is more likely to find it tough to really nail the whole spectrum of the human experience in their work. They might even fall into the trap of self-hugging, which is when one thinks that their way of doing things is the only right way, and not getting how anyone else could see things differently. Writers who face their shadows head-on are in a way better position to get other people, due to how many differing feelings they've explored. And that's a huge deal when it comes to writing diverse characters. And hey, when I say diverse, I mean diverse. Not just ticking the inclusiveness box. I mean really getting into the nitty-gritty of human experiences that we might not personally agree with, but can still understand and portray in our work. For an example of what I mean, let's look at Dylan Leary from the show Warrior. This guy leads the Irish Workers Union, and to put it bluntly, he's pretty racist. There's plenty about him that rubs me the wrong way. He's a tough, ruthless guy who ends up being a major enemy for the protagonist. And as an immigrant himself, his hypocrisy and wanting to deny the opportunity to others really gets under my skin. But, and hear me out here, Leary's also got some qualities that give him character depth. He's a straight shooter in his work dealings, and he's dedicated to bettering the lives of his fellow Irish immigrants. Even his racism has nuances at times. For instance, while he has no love for black people, he also recognizes our historical struggles and feels sympathy for us because we didn't come to America by choice. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying any of his negatives are okay. They're not, and I'll never be on board with those kinds of attitudes, even when they favor me. But by acknowledging my own shadow and dark thoughts, I can understand what leads them to act as they do. Understanding our own capacity for darkness can help us see why others might act the way they do. And that understanding can lead us to more compelling characters that resonate to a wider range of experiences and give us a sense of realism in our work, regardless of the roles we cast a character in. Reason number 4, it can inform how you portray inner conflict and character growth. Writers who haven't really done the whole personal growth thing themselves might end up showing growth in their characters in a way that feels a bit shallow or forced. You know, like when a character's growth just happens smoothly, one step after another, without any hiccups. I'm not saying that thing's necessarily a bad thing. In fact, in manga in theory and practice, Araki says that this kind of linear growth is the only way writers should go because setbacks can bum out the audience. I get his logic, and if you want to follow it, but it's something that doesn't resonate with me because it doesn't really reflect the true complexity of human growth. If you've done or just doing your own shadow work, you're more likely to get how messy and predictable personal growth can be. It's not a straight line. There are setbacks, detours, and periods where you just feel like you're going nowhere. Maybe you'll even feel temptation to give up. It's this complexity that makes growth feel real and lets characters have their highs and lows, instead of just an endless uphill climb. Let's take a look at Riku from Kingdom Hearts as an example for this. His character arc has the shadow work vibe to it, and his journey isn't just a bunch of forward steps. Looking at just his relationship alone with the power of darkness, he goes through a whole load of changes. At first, he's totally cool with the darkness, even embracing it because it doesn't scare him. But this lack of fear is what ends up leading him down a dark path, feeding into his worst traits like his jealousy of Sora and his need to be better. After hitting rock bottom because of it, he becomes afraid of the power of darkness and tries to get rid of it, feeling ashamed of himself. He wants nothing to do with it anymore. But that's like trying to cut off a part of himself. By not embracing the darkness, he's sabotaging himself by denying a part of his own identity. But after accepting it to save himself, he chooses to walk a path between light and darkness, using both. And even then, his journey isn't done. He gives into his darkness again for power, leading him to make sacrifices for his goals. This takes away his true appearance, something he still finds some shame over, but now, he's more willing to use darkness without falling into his old negative patterns again. He does have some negative feelings though, now feeling that he must do things alone and help from a distance, despite his loneliness. After finally accepting that he doesn't need to distance himself from his friends, Riku uses the power of darkness without fearing its drawbacks. And thanks to these struggles, he becomes immune to the villain's uses of the darkness. In fact, Riku is the only one who has truly mastered the darkness in the series, even passing the Keyblade Mastery test that Sora fails. Because of Sora's strong alignment with the light, he's more susceptible to the villain's tactics, whereas Riku can ignore it due to his experience and even use it against them. This is the kind of complex journey you get from shadow work. Without it, you might just end up with the oversimplistic, light is good, darkness is bad plotline that we saw in the first Kingdom Hearts game. This simplistic, purely positive path is great if your goal is to simply entertain. There's nothing wrong with commercial fiction, and if you want popularity, it's the route you should go. But if you want to make high impact fiction something meaningful, this is what you want to consider. At the end of the day, shadow work helps you avoid those black and white mindsets that can trip up creatives who are trying to make something that really resonates. When we create, I think what we're doing is choosing which parts of our shadow to expose and explore. But hey, that's just me. What do you think? Am I onto something here? Or have I completely missed the mark? Or maybe the truth is somewhere in between. I guess we won't know for sure until we get that conversation going. And hey, if you're digging this kind of content, why not hit the subscribe button? If this video isn't enough to convince you, take a glance at my ever-expanding catalog of videos and see if you vibe with what I'm doing here.